Good morning, ball fans and college football fans. Boy, it feels like it's been a long week since we've been here with you last. And the UAB Blazers come to Neyland Stadium tomorrow, and I almost feel bad for the Blazers. Tennessee needs a bounce-back game bad, and what leaves me a little bit concerned after that heartbreaker to Georgia, what leaves VFL Todd Kelly Jr. a little bit impressed. And who are we putting the squeeze on this week? We also go beyond state lines to talk to a UAB insider to see, will they even give Tennessee any bit of a challenge? So we have so much to get into today. Orange You Glad is live ball with Paige Dower and VFL Todd Kelly Jr. All right, so I want to get into a couple of segments here with you today, and I first want to talk about where you were impressed. There was a lot of things to love about Tennessee following that heartbreaker of a loss, if you will, against Georgia. When you look back at that game, or even when you were there, like, what were you in awe of watching that game?
Well, I think one is the tempo of the offense, how we started, right? I mean, that first drive was unstoppable.
Yeah.
The offense was running and doing basically everything they wanted to do, and the defense was at their will. And Joey Aguilar, I think his accuracy, his calmness, his coolness, his collectiveness playing in a big game like that, going 24 of 36 and accounting for 5 touchdowns. There's no secret that he's a playmaker, and we're going to really, really rely on him to continue making plays for us this season.
I mean, over 200 yards in the first quarter, TK. That's insane. He was
Unreal.
14 of 14
Unreal.
in that first quarter.
Yeah, when I saw that statistic, I mean, it made sense, right?
Yeah.
But just to see just the operations, right, and how everything was dialed up and working exactly how Josh Heupel draws it up, that just shows you that you can put this kid into a situation, into an environment where he's 24 years old, he's mature, he's played not these high-stakes games before, but because of his maturity and his experience, he was able to step in and execute.
And the one player that I think really helped Joey Aguilar be so effective in that game is one Chris Brazzell Jr., and he's been getting so much praise this week, and deservedly so. It actually kind of reminds me of a conversation Kelsey Pope had with us like last week, and he was just talking about how much these players like actually really want to play hard for Joey. And maybe you missed a little bit of that effort and passion last season. You certainly have it this year with the 50-50 balls he just went up and grabbed as if they were like right on target, right for him.
Yeah, and it's the camaraderie.
Yeah.
You know, Joey takes his receivers to have lunch, you know, on Thursdays before the games, and not mentioning any names, but prior to, you didn't see quarterbacks doing that. And so when you really have that relationship, right, that quarterback to receiver relationship, it's important what you do off the field. So when you get on the field, it's like, hey, man, I trust you. I'm going to give you opportunities. And a lot of 50-50 balls haven't been 50-50 balls for the University of Tennessee, but thankfully we saw that last Saturday.
Yeah, you mentioned the lunch, and I want to get your perspective, like being a former player, because it's actually Kelsey Pope was like, you know, I really like to go long in film study, and sometimes, you know, the players will tell me, like, wrap it up. Like, we've got dinner with Joey. So have you been in a position where you could, like, tell your coach, like, all right, come on, like, we got a date. Like, what is that like?
Well, it is a little bit different now because they have the money to actually pay for it. But, no, it's so cool, and that just shows you, you know, Kelsey Pope, he's a young guy. He played ball, and he understands what that relationship dynamic looks like. So it's really, really cool how they do that, and I think that's going to pay dividends moving forward this season. Yeah,
I think so, too. So that's kind of like the positive that we noticed, but I think why I think this will be a bounce-back game is because of what leaves us a little bit concerned following that game to Georgia.
Yeah, you know, if we make that field goal, the talk around really the country is Tennessee being a national championship contender. And we have a lot of things to improve. I think we have more things to improve than Georgia has to improve, which I would consider a positive because there are things that you can make happen. Some improvements just aren't, you know, you don't have the capability to do it, but whether it's getting healthy or, you know, getting your young guys more reps on the field, all these things are going to collectively make the Tennessee Volunteers a better team for it.
Yeah, I think the one area that has me concerned, and I know you mentioned like the last couple of plays as well, and I'm like, I really looked at that 7th drive of the game against Georgia where it was like 15 plays, 13 went for run plays. At the end of the game, Georgia had 55 run plays, yet Tennessee could not find a way to stop the run game against Georgia. They couldn't get off the field. You lose the lead on that drive. And I feel like for the most part, that really took a lot of the air out of that Tennessee team. Like, while the offense did respond, I felt like what the defense was unable to do in that game really kind of changed the tides for Tennessee.
Yeah, and when your interior defensive linemen are taking over 60 snaps against an offense like the Georgia Bulldogs, I understand why we slowed down the tempo, but we've got to build some more depth there, and you can only utilize excuses of being injured for so long. So these, third-string guys are going to have to step it up. And then on the outsides, too, we've got to be a little more physical. You saw Ty Redmond out there. Colton Hood knows how to use his hands, but I think the freshman, Ty Redmond, he had opportunities to show up in the run game and really didn't. So I'm sure he watched the film, got critiqued, got coached up, and I want to see him be a lot more aggressive this week.
Yeah, and this was actually the message from the linebackers coach and William Inge, and partly why I think it'll be a bounce-back game for Tennessee.
Just make sure you work to finish your plays, finish the sequence, finish on third down. That probably the biggest thing was us on third downs. And when you continue to peel layers away, it was making sure that you can be even more efficient on second down.
It's all about finishing plays. I think that's the biggest thing, and I think you can see that on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, you got to finish plays, play through the whistle. And at times, you saw Georgia playing through the whistle. And when you go back to the game and you think of the opportune moments that we probably left on the table, you can think of a lot of them. We had them in positions where, hey, if we get this stop, hey, if we get this potential turnover, this is the game. So as a defensive-minded person, I see that. But on the other side, just so many positives to take out of this game. Let's not take it out of consideration that Georgia is always a college football playoff team, and to see that throughout the game, you almost had them beat.
Yeah.
And when you didn't have them beat, you came back. So that just shows a testament to this team's character and that they know they can win.
Yeah, absolutely. So my other favorite segment, buying and selling.
Yeah.
Love this, especially since you are a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch. I mean, you're so good at these, and I'm like, I need to step up my game. Okay, so if we're going to do some buying and selling today, so would you go over or under 70 total points in this matchup?
I think that's a really, really good number to pick, Paige. I'm going to go over.
Okay.
Reason being, you saw what we did against the Georgia offense and prior to against ETSU. I think the sky's the limit for this offense. I think that they want to get as many players that they can on the field, get Joey off of the field, but then have the quarterback still air it out, to the young receivers. So I think it's going to be a balanced attack. And with that being said, I think we're going to go over 70 points.
Yeah, I think
so
even if if they take Joey out in the first half, I'll still take the over as well. So buying or selling, Tennessee's defense will hold UAB to under 200 yards.
Yeah, this is tough. So I'm probably going to sell that.
Okay.
With ETSU going over 200 yards, I believe they barely got over 200 yards. That's a really, really tough feat to accomplish.
Yeah.
You have to eliminate explosive plays, specifically in this game. You can't have. I think it's really going to be big for our secondary, right? You got to have good angles. You have to pursue. You can't give up explosive plays like you did last weekend, the Zachariah Branch screen that went for, over 40 yards, 30 yards. You can't do that. No. So I think something's going to happen in this game where we probably get a little frustrated, and with that, I'm going to sell that.
Okay, buying or selling Tennessee on offense gets over 200 or gets 250 rushing yards.
Yeah, I think 250 is a good number.
Okay.
I'll buy that. I think we'll rush over 250. I think you'll see that three-headed monster out there once again.
Hopefully, yeah.
And I think hopefully this week, we may find a 1 and then 2A, 2B. I think we need a primary running back. You saw Star Thomas really get it going. He was the only one to have an explosive rush last week. So figuring out kind of who's that guy and really, really feeding them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, when we come back, we'll have more on our matchups for this week. We'll go to UAB's insider, his thoughts on the matchup, and who we're putting the squeeze on. We'll be right back.
Your business can't afford the downtime that comes with a leaky roof. So whether you need a repair or a replacement, count on the professionals from McGuire Roofing and Construction. Your protection is our passion. We service and sell all types of roofs and have worked with some of East Tennessee's most recognized names. We have 25 years of experience and free inspection estimates, plus best in business warranties. Put an end to your roofing problems today by calling McGuire Roofing and Construction.
Todd Kelly Jr. Welcome to Live Ball, presented
Live Ball. So now we have our matchups. We've established that, Tennessee did really well last week. There's some things to improve on. I think the one matchup that I'm really looking for, and they need it for confidence, I think, is Ty Redmond versus the UAB receivers.
Yeah.
For a freshman, honestly, if you could just look at the plays where he didn't get beat on many routes against Georgia. I think the issue was he didn't really get his head turned around on a number of plays, and he had tight coverage. Like, he really could have given himself a chance in this game, and you could see it in the PFF grade. They gave him a 53.7. That's replaceable, and it's a stark difference from how he looked the first couple of games. And maybe it's because it was a really big game. I mean, you know better than anybody. Just sometimes you kind of get outside yourself. You kind of forget about those fundamentals. Turning your head around is probably something you learned in Pop Warner. So yeah. I think getting to that, he will be, I think, a lockdown corner for Tennessee in this game.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a ton of eyes, if not the majority of the eyes on him, even though this is, a lower-tiered opponent. What I find is playing teams like this, you see the biggest differentiation within the interior. So offensive line, defensive line, those matchups. But when it comes to your skill positions, receivers, DBs, running backs, almost linebackers too, there's not much of a drop-off. But, when you have your big-time players, right, like a Chris Brazzell Jr. or somebody like that, you can see a difference. So I think for Ty, UAB has some talented players. Not SEC caliber, I'm not saying that, but, hey, can he build his confidence here? He's better than all the receivers they have. So he needs to show it on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, Iverson Hooks and Corey Milliner for UAB had several explosive plays against Navy, and Navy is not a team that you can just roll past either. I mean, the last couple of weeks they have been getting a couple AP votes, so maybe it's the same couple of people each week, but they had explosive plays in that game. They were able to score in the opening drive against Navy with Hooks because he had like a 51-yard reception, and then the couple of drives later, it's Milliner who has a couple 21-yard receptions. So I think it's a good challenge that Redmond could potentially see against an offense that does like to stretch the field. Will they be successful? Probably not, but hopefully he gets an opportunity to be challenged.
Absolutely. Yeah, and he doesn't have a choice now. And in that DB room, make it known. Sure, he made mistakes, and Gunnar Stockton had some amazing throws. When you have a perfect pass, perfect catch, there's not much a defensive back can do, and that happened on that 4th and 6 play, to basically allow them to tie it up. So, no pun intended, but when they tied it up, I feel like Ty lost his confidence, so it's time to get it back.
Yeah, when you look to this game, who was your key matchup for a successful game?
So mine's going to be Ethan Davis. Okay. I think that given his health and everything, I really want to see him step up as a tight end. He has 1 reception for 1 yard this season, and just watching him going in, watching some practice, seeing his build, his athleticism, just his entire skill set, his agility, the way he's able to move his feet, go up and get the ball. He has fantastic hands. Just thought that I would see a lot more productivity from him within the first 3 games.
Yeah.
Miles Kitselman is out there, and he's a great tight end. But I thought we were going to see kind of more of a dual impact from Miles and Ethan. So I think this would be a big opportunity for Ethan Davis just to show what he's about, right? Yeah. Show his skill set, get a ball, get in the end zone. Last year he was able to find the end zone. So I really just think we need to implement him into the offense, and I think this is a big time for him to show his worth.
Yeah, I think when the team talks about working on details, I think it's those details that we could see them working on, because it was Oscar Delp for Georgia who set up really nice blocks for Gunnar Stockton. So it could even be I would maybe look for Ethan Davis and how physical he can be. He's got the size to do that. So can he help set blocks? Can he go and be a receiver for Tennessee? And maybe we've not seen that very much because the actual wide receivers have been so efficient that maybe you don't need those options, but you definitely want to build that connection.
Yeah, 100%. And, I'm very bullish on our receiver core. Our 3 kind of tiered offensive receivers that we have, Brazzell Jr., Matthews, and Staley, and also Kitselman too. But I do think Davis could step up in the fold, and he needs to put his hands on somebody, be physical if we're going to get over 250 yards this week. But I think this is a big opportunity for him to just show his worth.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, when we come back, we'll have my favorite segment, The Squeeze, and then we'll go beyond state lines to get to the insider for UAB. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I'm VFL Chris Brown. Experience the VW brand proudly being produced in the great state of Tennessee. Harper Volkswagen is a proud partner of Tennessee Athletics. Go Vols!
business can't afford the downtime that comes with a leaky roof. So whether you need a repair or a replacement, count on the professionals from McGuire Roofing and Construction. Your protection is our passion. We service and sell all types of roofs and have worked with some of East Tennessee's most recognized names. We have 25 years of experience and free inspection estimates, plus best in business warranties. Put an end to your roofing problems today by calling McGuire Roofing and Construction.
Welcome back into Live Ball Page Tower, VFL Todd Kelly Jr. My favorite segment, it is the squeeze. And I love it because I also like that we hold ourselves accountable, right? Like we go back to last week and we're like, okay, I put a lot of pressure on this guy. Like, how did he look? Mine was Braylon Staley. I think he looked very, very strong against Georgia. And I think the detail I appreciate most is like the mental toughness he has, right? You remember that interception that he had. And of course, what happens that very next drive? The first receiver that Joey goes to is Braylon Staley. The next drive after that is a 32-yard touchdown reception for Braylon Staley. And I think that just showed like the ability to bounce back, what we talked about earlier, and the connection that Joey has with his receivers. So I really like the growth that we saw from Braylon in this game.
I love watching him play.
Yeah.
He's just going to get out there and try to make as many plays as he can. If he's not open, he's going to go out, try to block somebody, and you can just see how excited he is to finally have an opportunity to play. I mean,
yeah.
Knowing Braylon, he wanted to be out there last year, right? And the question was, hey, you know, these young receivers, they haven't really showed what they can do. Are they talented enough to play in the SEC? And, boy, we've seen that he's one of the main reasons why Joey's able to have success this year.
Yeah, and I was talking to his dad before the game against Georgia as well, and they literally are just the best family. And Braylon was like, I call my dad every day. Well, anyway, I'll let you listen to that real quick, and we'll come right back.
He says that he talks to you and Mom all the time.
Every day.
I call my dad every day, my mom every day. We talk about the game. You know, he just keep telling me to lock in, you know, have a great mindset coming into the game and just focus.
What does that mean to you to have a son that really continues to look to you, like the parents, for guidance?
Man, it feels good. You know, you try to teach your kids, give them all the core values that you have at home, and you just want to make sure that he stay on that path, and he really has. It's a great feeling. I don't care how late it is, I'm answering.
Because Brian Staley, the day, he's like, I don't care what time it is, I'm going to answer. And I think it just like shows, because like he had to go through all that patience of last year and then finally gets his opportunity, and it's so much about that family support to get you through those tough times.
Yeah, it is, and that's a fantastic connection. I can think about my freshman year coming in and, you know, just really working hard and feeling like I want to be out there, you know, and talking to my dad, and he had the experience as well, and he coached me growing up. So just to see what that dynamic is like, and that he's able to finally have a taste of success and what it means to put time in and really reap the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, and that full story is over on the website, fulldisclosurepro.com. Now let's get to your week 2 or week 3 evaluation on who your squeeze was from last week.
Yeah, so mine was Deshaun Bishop. So Deshaun had 15 carries for 54 yards. Didn't grade out as well as I would expect him to, given my take prior to the game.
Yeah.
But from Deshaun Bishop, you know, he's a fantastic runner. He's made his pass blocking so much better from year 1 to year 2. But he graded out PFF grade 56.6 on 33 snaps, which means, you know, hey, man, you're replaceable. And I think that while he was out there and is an impact player for us and will be this season, he didn't have his best game against Georgia. The offensive attack in general, having only one explosive rush, which is over 10 yards, and that was by Star Thomas, which we saw later in the game. You got to do more. You have to have more productivity if you want to be considered a premier back in the SEC, and that didn't show against Georgia by Deshaun Bishop. So I'm expecting him to bounce back as well, but really felt like we could get some more out of him, not only from the rushing attack, but out of the backfield, catching the ball. We saw some drops against ETSU. Thought he would, pick that up and kind of perfect that craft, and we saw another drop against Georgia. So he's got some room to improve, but that's why I put the squeeze on the best players out here.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic in this, but I do think until Tennessee's linebacker unit can tighten up a little bit, it might be the Achilles heel to the Tennessee defense. I know earlier in the season we were talking about that third down defense, and a lot of that was the issue against Georgia, right? The average down and distance on third down was like 5.5 yards. Well, the average rush for Georgia was 6 yards. So your linebacker is the only, like, of course he led the team in tackles in that game, but it's not until after a first down is done. And I think teams are going to continue to pick on you in that regard until you stop them. So that area makes me a little nervous moving forward. Yeah,
and, Andre Turrentine as well, playing safety. He's up there in tackles, and when you see that, you're when I played, I led the team in tackles, and that's not necessarily a good thing if, you're a defensive back and lead the team in tackles. So I think our linebackers just need to play more on their toes, less on their heels. You know it's coming. You know your D-line is thin. I'm sure they want to help in the pass game, but basically Georgia, from a rushing attack, did whatever they needed to do whenever they wanted to do it. And that's not going to change in the SEC, so we've got to figure something out within that interior. I think the D-line needs to do a better job at, making sure that it doesn't get to that next level. But then these linebackers need to attack, need to run their feet. I think sometimes, whether it was Frazier or the other running back from Georgia, when you make contact, you got to make contact and keep your feet churning, not give them 2 or 3 yards from falling forward.
Yeah, absolutely. When we look to your squeeze, who would you put it on for week 4?
Yeah, so, knowing my defensive back nature, it's going to be Ty Redmond and the UAB receivers. For me, this is a great opportunity for him to show why he's a freshman and out there. Willie Martinez, when I was at, one of the practices before Georgia, he called him the freak. And when you look at him, you saw him during Georgia, he has all the, the dimensions to be a great, all the dimensions to be a great defensive back. He's just young. Yeah. So in games like this is where you can really gain confidence. You can really solidify yourself as someone that can be a game changer. And we saw him get, an interception right before halftime, which isn't huge, but he can at least say, hey, I have an interception. I've got some stats on the board. Let me see what I can do this game. So big chance for him to redeem himself, solidify himself as a starter, and then also, get his head around, make some plays, so then when you get an SEC play, you're doing the same thing. Yeah, absolutely. Well, TK, I appreciate the time. When we come back, we're going to go inside the state of Alabama to get to one of their insiders and what they're seeing in this matchup between UAB and Tennessee. We'll be right back.
I'm VFL Chris Brown. Experience the VW brand proudly being produced in the great state of Tennessee. Harper Volkswagen is a proud partner of Tennessee Athletics. Go Vols!
Business can't afford the downtime that comes with a leaky roof. So whether you need a repair or a replacement, count on the professionals from McGuire Roofing and Construction. Your protection is our passion. We service and sell all types of roofs and have worked with some of East Tennessee's most recognized names. We have 25 years of experience and free inspection estimates, plus best in business warranties. Put an end to your roofing problems today by calling McGuire Roofing and Construction.
Welcome back into Live Ball. Paige Dower, now joined by one of their own insiders, beat writer at AL.com for UAB, and Tony Tsoukalas. Tony, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. When we looked at this game against UAB, I was going back and looking at some of the film, and it's really the Navy game that actually really stood out to me with what this UAB offense could do. They have a really good ability to stretch the field, and I think a couple of the favorite targets for the quarterback is definitely in Milliner and Hooks. What do you think that they'll be able to do in this game against Tennessee when it comes to that passing effort?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a UAB team, I think, that's going to challenge Tennessee in terms of pulling the upset, but there are certain aspects I think that they could maybe cause a headache. I think the passing game is one of the areas that UAB is probably one of, that's obviously their biggest strength. I think you've got a really talented quarterback in Jalen Kitna, a former Florida transfer. And then you've got two receivers that I think could be playing in the SEC next year in Corey Milliner and Iverson hooks. Milner is a great playmaking receiver. He can get open. I think he's second. If you go by Pro Football Focus, he's like second in the nation in intermediate routes. So it shows that he can get open. He's not just he's a guy that can beat you deep, and he did that in the Navy game with that long touchdown. But he's also a guy that can, get open, when he's covered. And so I think those two targets. There's also Brian Hawkins Jr. They've got a good array of receivers. Solomon Beebe can catch in the passing game as well out of the backfield. So they've got some weapons that can maybe cause Tennessee some problems in the passing game or in the secondary. I think that could be one of the interesting parts. You're going to have to pick and choose to find the bright spots for UAB in this game. That could be one of them for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned the quarterback in Jalen Kitna. What I thought was really impressive and his bright spots through the first couple of games of the season was his ability to still get it downfield despite the pressure that he sees in his face. And I'm sure that's what Tennessee is focusing on this week, is just bringing the pressure, because they didn't get to Gunnar Stockton last week maybe as much as they wanted to. How would you evaluate how Jalen is when he is under pressure?
Yeah, I think that he's been pretty solid. I think there were times maybe in the second half of the Navy game is when you look at when he kind of forced some things, had some costly interceptions. That's going to be the key. Is he's going to need to feel like he's going to have to make plays to keep up with Tennessee, because I don't know how many stops they're going to get, how many stops UAB is going to get on the other side, and he's going to face a lot of pressure. I think he's just going to have to stay calm and kind of not try to be too much of a hero. But he has done a solid job of ducking and dodging and getting past some of these defenders that have been in his face. And he'll have receivers, they won't be as open as they have been, but I'm sure that he'll have some opportunities to make plays in the passing game. You're also going to need the offensive line to show up. This is a UAB offensive line that's been kind of hot and cold. It only returns one starter from last year. I think they're going to have to really step up big, because it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to hear things. Obviously he's going against the best defense he's faced. So there's a lot of pressure on Jalen. I think he's going to need a lot of help from every aspect in his game. And he's most of all going to have to show that maturity and not get overwhelmed by any situation he faces.
And I'm sure, from your perspective, too, what could help Jalen maybe the most is what the defense might be able to do against Tennessee. And honestly, I don't have too much confidence in what that defense is going to be able to do against Joey Aguilar and just how much they've been airing it out this season. What is the kind of energy from Trent Dilfer, the head coach at UAB, when they do consider how much stress might be on their secondary going up against Joey Aguilar in that pass game?
Look, Trent Dilfer's just talked about, improving the floor of everything, and then with the defense, it's really just that floor is pretty low. And so you just got to try to make it not as terrible. The thing about UAB, and if you look at the Navy game and you look at the Akron game, UAB has started so poorly on defense. They've had 7 first quarter drives against. They've allowed 6 touchdowns and 1 field goal. I mean, You're going to dig yourself in a hole like that against Tennessee. It's not going to be easy. If you could get an early start, or even maybe an early field goal, hold them to a field goal on a few of those drives, that would be big for UAB. But I guess the positive side to it is you look at the Navy game and you look at the Akron game. There were some key stops later in the game, and so maybe you could think maybe they're figuring things out, but I think they're gonna have to figure things out a lot faster against Tennessee, and it's gonna be a lot more difficult to figure things out against Tennessee. I don't have a lot of confidence in this UAB any part of the defense. They did come off of five sacks in the game against Akron, so maybe the pass rush is figuring things out. Maybe they can cause some problems. I think if that part of the game is clicking, I think maybe you catch a Tennessee team still hungover from last week, maybe sleeping a little bit. Maybe you can force Joey Aguilar to make an early interception just because he's not totally focused. Something like that, I think, would be huge for UAB.
Yeah, you're really getting into the mental psyche there, maybe what will have to happen for
Look,
UAB.
For UAB, they got to get into anything they can. I mean, they're going to be so overmatched in this game.
Yes, and before we let you go, Tony, being a beat writer at AL.com for UAB, when you look to this game, and you've mentioned a couple of times, they're just not going to be able to challenge Tennessee, but what is that one matchup that you're looking for on the UAB perspective that gives them some type of chance?
I think that the wide receivers. I mean, you got to go with UAB's strength. I don't know if just from the talent side, I don't know if they necessarily are going to overwhelm Tennessee's secondary. But that is, if you look on paper, at least, a matchup. I think, I mentioned Solomon Beebe as a running back. He's second overall nationally in all-purpose yards, and he's a good kick returner too. I haven't talked about special teams. Maybe that's an area where UAB can do pretty well at, and maybe they can catch Tennessee off guard. Maybe if they catch them sleeping on a kick return, get good field position, something like that. I think could be something to watch out for. But I think really the biggest area would probably be those receivers. And like I said, you want to look at where UAB has SEC talent. I think at the receiver position, they some improve in their games, but I think Iverson Hooks and Corey Milner really could be at SEC teams next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tony, I really appreciate your time and love all the work that you're doing at AL.com, covering both the University of Alabama and also UAB as well. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Hey, anytime. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, well, that is week 4 of live ball. The key to the game essentially sounds like Tennessee just needs to stay awake in this one, and maybe they get over that 70-point mark that TK and I had earlier this morning. We'll be back later on Saturday for all things reactions to hopefully a Tennessee victory, and then much more coming up in week 5 of live ball. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Welcome to Live Ball, presented by Harper Volkswagen. Here are your hosts, Paige Dower and Todd Kelly Jr.
I'm VFL Chris Brown. Experience the VW brand proudly being produced in the great state of Tennessee. Harper Volkswagen is a proud partner of Tennessee Athletics. Go Vols!
Business can't afford the downtime that comes with a leaky roof. So whether you need a repair or a replacement, count on the professionals from McGuire Roofing and Construction. Your protection is our passion. We service and sell all types of roofs and have worked with some of East Tennessee's most recognized names. We have 25 years of experience and free inspection estimates, plus best in business warranties. Put an end to your roofing problems today by calling McGuire Roofing and Construction.